What's up, guys? This is Jesse DeRozier with Hydrilla Gorilla Guide Service on Lake Guntersville. Today's date is April 4th, 2025, and this is what's on the deck. So this week, we had a really good week. We've continued to put really good quality fish in the boat. I think every day that we've been out, we've been able to break 20 plus pounds, and we have continued to put really good numbers in the boat. The fish are moving up on beds, as I'm sure you're well aware, watching live on MLF. And there's a lot of ways to catch these fish. You don't have to, be up there sight fishing in order to catch fish. And I'll go over now basically what we did this week. We did not actually bed fish at all this week. So that will be coming up, but I have not officially started yet. So this week we have continued to utilize a chatterbait as our mainstay. And the chatterbait that I choose has all been based on the bait fish that I'm seeing in the area. And I prefer to catch better quality fish if I can. And in doing so, I am taking that right there. That is a Producer Swimbaits pintail shad. This I'm using as a trailer right now. Normally I thread this directly on just a jig head for the chatterbait. But this year I decided to go with something a little bit different. I had a golden shiner skirt and I paired it up with that. And the reason why is because in the area that I was seeing the gizzard shad, I also was seeing golden shiners. And pairing that up, I was able to kind of kill two birds with one stone. So in an area where I'm seeing the bait fish moving around on my live scope, and once you've done this for a while, you'll be able to identify what those bait fish look like. They do mark differently, as well as the way that they move in the water column. You'll be able to start to identify that. The best way is actually snagging one. You see the school in front of you, and if you accidentally snag one, and you'd be like, oh, okay, well, obviously this is what I'm throwing through. This is what they look like on my live scope. And that's pretty much how, I've been able to figure that out as times went on. So where I'm seeing the gizzard shad, where I'm seeing the golden shiners, I'm throwing that bigger profile. These females that are up there, they don't want to be up there and starve. And they're not all up there yet, guys, so don't even think that. This is just the first start of everything that's going to take place. So that being the case, these bigger females are looking for that larger meal, not having to chase, little threadfin around. So this is the time. If you're going to throw a big bait, now's the time. And we'll get to that towards the end as well, talking about throwing a bigger bait. Where I'm seeing threadfin and I'm seeing fish actively pursuing the threadfin, I'm going with a smaller profile shad pattern. This one has done really, really well. It's only about 4, maybe 4¼ inches long. It is not a very big bait, guys. So I'm matching the hatch. If I'm seeing the threadfin in the area, that's basically what I'm throwing. If I'm seeing no threadfin, no gizzard shad, no golden shiners, but I'm seeing bluegill. And the way that you'll know that you're seeing bluegill is usually on your live scope. Those tend to be, you'll see them right underneath your transducer. They'll move up, move across the top of the grass, and kind of dive straight back down. Where I'm seeing that activity, or if I'm just in an area where I know that they're going to be actively bedding, they don't want bluegill around their areas, and so in that instance, I'm going with something that's going to represent a bluegill. So in that green pumpkin coloration is going to be a very good option. So that's my chatterbait selection. So I'm either going really big, smaller profile, or bluegill. Same deal with swim jig is going to be, again, bluegill pattern or green pumpkin. In those areas where I'm seeing the bluegill, where I'm not, or in dirtier water, which we've had quite a bit of, we've got a couple things that's been going on. So we had the storms that came through. We had some tornado weather kind of around our area and north of us, which caused quite a bit of rain and turbidity in the water, and the water's been fairly stained up. Well, then we've gotten some really heavy winds, and with the winds, it knocks silt loose from the grass, ends up staining up the water. So the water has been stained. It's starting to clear the last 3-4 days. and finally starting to get some cleaner water, but there's still areas that have stained water, and in that circumstance I'm going to be throwing like a black and blue. We've got some more rain, it looks like, that's going to be coming in, and they're talking like an inch, so that may continue to play. In the cleaner water areas, or in these areas where, again, I'm seeing gizzard shad and the golden shiners, I'm going with the Swiminator by Producer Swimbaits, going with a larger profile. This is either a 4.5 or 5 inch. I can't remember exactly what the length is. But pairing it with that Owner Flashy Swimmer, that is a really great option for these. They run so great, come through the grass clean, and that little bit of flash coming off that blade really helps. The Owner is a 6/0 3/8 ounce, and then the smaller option, where the thread fin are that I'm seeing, I'm throwing my favorite, that 3.5 inch Swiminator in that blue minnow color, and that is going to be a 5/0 1/4 ounce flashy swimmer. So I get that question a lot on what hooks or sizes that I'm throwing, so hopefully that'll help you guys out as far as that. Last moving bait that I threw this week, and I did this more so just to keep it honest, because it is fading fast, is going to be a Lipless. Now, one of the days we were fishing recently, I continued to throw it. We caught 27 fish. Only 4 of those fish came off the Lipless. If I was seeing quicker bites and more reactions on it, I would have continued to throw it a lot more during that day. But the activity was definitely on these other options that we were talking about. So that one is fading quickly. I'm all about modifications, guys. I try to do a little bit of that each week to kind of help you out. One thing that I will mention modification wise with the red eye shad, and this I guess could be for any Lipless, is if you've got one that is running and it starts to run up sideways on you and doesn't want to come back to true, it needs tuned. And red eye shads are bad about that. They get knocked out easy, and then a lot of times they'll come out of the package that way. So what you do is basically, if it's running at you and it's running up on this side or that side, turn it back to the opposite side and do it a little bit at a time. You're going to take a pair of pliers, go straight over the top, and tweak it whichever direction that it needs to go until it starts to run back true. You want to be able to basically kind of rip that bait without it really running up on its side. If you go too far, it'll start to go back the other way. That modification will help you catch a lot more fish, because when you rip it out of the grass, you want that bait to basically rip up and stay true, so that when it starts to flutter, it's fluttering straight down. You don't want it to continually be running up on its side. And if you don't know it, a lot of times you think that it's kind of come back true, and you keep reeling, it'll run all the way to your boat sideways. That's not going to get you any fish. So speaking of lure modifications, the Chatterbait trailers, the swim jig trailers, the Producer Swimbaits, if I'm running that on a jig head, so any of my soft plastics, I'm going to make sure that I'm taking a dot of the Avid Anglers fishing glue and putting that on there, guys. It makes a big difference as to how many you're going to catch. If I can find the bait that I had a minute ago. There it is. These trailers will last you way longer if you glue them on there, literally to the point until they get torn down the side of the hook. This one, I had probably caught 20-25 fish on it, and it wouldn't have done that had I not put the glue on there. The hook keeper for these is horrible, and that I'm running on that jig head, and they don't last if you don't put the glue on there. So I make sure that I take a dot of glue, put it on there, give it time to really cure up good, and go to work. But until they get torn to the point that they won't stay in the position that they're supposed to be, as long as it's holding on, basically I'm going to keep throwing it. So that modification is huge. But to help you to be able to do these modifications, Avid Anglers actually has little toolkits. So you get you a pair of pliers, get you a bottle of glue. Right now, we're getting into the season where these soft plastics are coming into play, and we're fixing to go over those in a minute. And having a little chartreuse garlic scent pen can make a big difference in getting some more fish put in the boat. And then of course, a pair of braid scissors. Now if you've got an older boat, which I used to have, I had a Bumblebee, I did not have a place for tools, and it sucked. These come with a little kit. You can basically mount it on the sidewall, you know, by your step, and be able to, you know, attach that. You can either do it with, you know, Velcro strips, or you can do it with, you know, actually putting a couple little screws in there. Another modification to the modifications is on the back side of this. I would take like a 3/32 drill bit and put you a little hole right here at the very bottom corners to allow for rain to drip out, because if these are mounted to the sidewall of the boat, they're going to get rain down in them, and you want that to drain out so that, you know, this stuff doesn't end up turning to, you know, straight rust on you immediately. The other option that they also have is going to be this one. So it has the same 4 items, but then it has a Phillips and flathead screwdriver, and then it has a hook sharpener. Now, talking about modifications, hook sharpening makes a huge difference as to whether or not you're going to put many fish in the boat. So I'm going to give you an illustration. A dull hook, when you take it to your fingernail, it's going to slide literally off your fingernail. It's just going to scratch. That's not what you're looking for. If you look at my fingernail, you can see the scratches literally where I was sliding that across my fingernail. A sharp hook, one that has been hit with a hook sharpener, when you get done with it, it should be so sharp that it snags your fingernail. So when you put pressure against it, it should grab. It should grab so much that you can literally lift that lure or that rod or whatever is hanging on it. That amount of pressure literally should grab and hang on. That's a sharp hook, guys. That's the way they should be. If you do that, take a moment to hone your hooks, you'll put a lot more fish in the boat. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of an illustration on the best way to do that, because you can destroy a hook very quickly with a hook sharpener as well as make it better. So if you're looking at the hook point, the hook point is facing away from you at all times, and I don't do it facing me. I do it with the hook point facing away. You're not going to ever pull backwards against the hook. If you pull backwards, you're going to roll that tip. So you want to take that hook sharpener and you want to hone away from you. Lift up, pull, and constantly push it away. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is I also want to kind of hit diagonal as I'm doing that. So I want to hone one side of that hook, basically taking away a little bit of that meat of the hook on the tip to make that such a fine point on the other side. Now if it gets to where it won't take, and that will happen occasionally, I'll go back and I'll hit 1 or 2 times on the other side, and that usually will get you where you need to be. But keep checking it against your fingernail. Again, if it's just sliding off your fingernail and won't grab, that's not going to do you any good. So make sure that you're taking the time to hone your hooks. If you've got a jackhammer you spent 20 bucks on, and you get a hook point rolled over because you get it into a stump or a tree or some rocks, and you go in there and you get it and you check that hook point and it's rolled over, take a minute, take that hook sharpener out and hone that hook. That versus throwing it in the bottom of the boat and saying, well, that one's no good, and you basically just lost $20. You got to go spend 20 bucks to go get another one. That little bitty hook sharpener will make a big difference as to how many lures that you don't have to dispose of. So again, trying to save you guys money. Next modification is going to be, again, adding scent to your baits. Thunp Gel is going to make a big difference as to how many fish that you're putting in the boat. And especially now that we're getting around bedding season, having that scent on there is going to make these fish feel like that is something real, that is a danger to their fry or their eggs, and it's going to get you those added bites. So let's get on to the soft plastics for this week. Again, pros are here right now, so you are seeing a lot of wacky rig. That right now is going to become a huge deal over the next probably 5-6 weeks. that is going to continue to put a lot of fish in the boat. So just a weightless wacky rig Senko. My next option this past week has been taking a light rig Texas rig. Here again, you can do a Senko, baby brush hog, a full-size brush hog if you want to, a lizard, any of the soft plastics that you want, and drag this around those areas where these fish are moving up to bed or are bedding. I do keep it light. I don't like going very heavy with that. So normally I'm going to go with an 1/8 ounce, a 3/16, quarter at the absolute most. And that's more in kind of like windier conditions. I want that bait to continue to lay on the top of the grass, and if you get it too heavy, it's going to bury down in the grass, and every time you pull it, you're going to have to, really pull it to clear it. It's not going to look very natural. You want it to be able to basically just kind of come up and over the tops of the grass and kind of lay up there. Don't peg it. You want that weight to slide away. Allow for your bait to lay there, and the weight will just kind of pull away from the bait. If you peg it, it's going to go nose down and punch right through the grass, and then they're not going to see it until you kind of pull it back out. And it's going to reduce the number of bites that you're getting, as well as the amount of grass that you're having to fight with. In a little cleaner areas, I've been playing with this. As you just saw, this is a weighted wacky rig. I hate throwing worms. I'll just go ahead and put it out there. This is the season that I hate as far as having to slow down. I am a power fisherman by trade, so I prefer to add a little bit of weight to mine just so that I'm not having to wait for that thing to get down there and do what I need it to do. So in areas where I've got a little bit cleaner bottom, or I'm wanting it to remain kind of down there but still have that wacky rig presentation, I want it to have that movement, I'm going to use that weighted wacky rig. Last but not least is, in windy conditions, is going with the old ball and chain, that Carolina rig. I prefer this in the wind because you can add added weight and still pull it through the grass. Doesn't really matter how much grass gets on the weight of your hook, as long as this is dragging back there clean and clear. So again, a baby brush hog, lizard, whatever your choice of soft plastic is going to be. So Carolina rig is what I prefer in those windier conditions. So that's basically what we use this week. Now, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some heads up on some things that you can do going forward. So as you see on live on MLF, these fish are starting to bed. And with that in mind, if you are a topwater guy and you like to see the explosions, taking a Spro frog and pulling that around these areas, or along grass lines, primrose, any of those items where these fish are going to continue to want to bed, will get you those bites. The other great option is going to be to go with a bluegill style topwater. Again, they don't want bluegill around their bed, so taking this and twitching this directly over the top of their bed can get you some really big bites. Last on the topwaters is going to be, I like this old school Bill Dance popping image. That lure right there is money when it comes to, especially even like fry garters. They don't want anything running around eating their fry, so you take this around the beds or a fry garter and pop that over the top of their head. You're gonna get some big bites on that. If I'm going subsurface, getting down around the beds or close to these bedding areas, taking again something in a bluegill profile, so that's a Savage gear and even smaller, so depending on which one that you prefer, taking those, swimming those around the beds, those are really good agitators. My favorite is the old Huddleston, and that right there is money when it comes to swimming that around some bedding fish. You want to get them irritated and mad, that'll do it in a hurry. If you're looking to go directly pitching into a bed and trying to get a fish to bite, you want to see what's going on, a great option this time of year is going to be a bright colored tube. For those, I'm going to take tube weight and drop that in there inside the tube. It's going to fish a lot cleaner and be able to still get you those fish when they bite. Another great option as well is going to be creature baits. So anything that looks like, you know, a predator of some sort. Gary Yamamoto makes one. I don't even know what the name of that thing is. I can't pronounce it, but essentially it looks like a pollywog. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Northern guys should know. But basically it's got like a pollywog tail on it. It's got little appendages, so it's going to look like a predator of some sort going in their bed. And there, I'm just going to take, you know, a little 1/4 ounce jig head, pair that up, pitch that around their beds. And again, taking that chartreuse dye and putting that on the tail make a big difference. They don't want bluegill around their beds, and that chartreuse will kind of help you give it some of that bluegill profile. The last thing is going to be, if you can't see the beds, you know the areas in which they're bedding, taking a larger profile bluegill style bait, this is the bullgill, and swimming this around the beds. You talk about a big bite, boys. That right there is going to get you a really big bite. And since we're talking about the bullgill, right after these fish come off bed, the bull shad and the bull shad weight, these two are going to become huge factors going forward. So if you don't have them yet, you might want to go ahead and get yours ordered. They're not easily found sometimes. There's a lot of options out there as far as, you know, you may find one, but it might not be the one that you're looking for. And those, I like the slow sink model, and of course on the weight, that's going to be a floating model. But that's the 6-inch bull shad, slow sink, and then the bullgill and the bluegill color slow sink. Those two are absolutely great baits, but that right there is going to be some fun coming up when these fish start to move back out. So hopefully that gives you guys some information going into this week to help you out and be able to catch some of these fish. Hope to see you guys out on the water, and until next week, guys, tight lines.